about those moments in life, you know, the ones where a single decision, one choice, can just completely change everything that comes after? Well, back in 19th century Denmark, a young man faced a choice just like that. And it didn't just define his future, it sent shockwaves through the entire system. This is a story about how one single act of defiance can forge a legacy.
So this is our guy, Frederik. And at the beginning of our story, believe me, rebel is the last word you'd use to describe him. He's smart, he's ambitious, and he's just desperate to find his place in the world. So how on earth did this driven young idealist end up becoming one of the most controversial figures of his time? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into.
All right, so our story kicks off where so many do, with a young man showing up in the big city, Copenhagen, with absolutely everything to prove. Now, Frederik feels like he's playing catch-up. He's been away from the academic world for 5 years, and he lands in the city with this burning ambition to finally make his mark, to find what he called his life's work. The pressure is huge, and it's all coming from himself. Okay, so his first big hurdle is this thing called the Dimisprædiken. And you have to understand, this was not just another exam. This was the ultimate gatekeeper. For a guy like Frederik, passing this thing was his golden ticket into the intellectual and social elite of Denmark. Failure? Not even an option. And guess what? He absolutely nails it. He passes the exam, and it's like almost overnight, all the doors to Copenhagen society just swing wide open. He gets invited into the most exclusive, most brilliant social circle in the entire country. He's finally made it. But as he's about to find out, being brilliant in your studies is one thing. Learning to navigate the incredibly complex world of high society with all its unspoken rules, its romantic tensions, and its fierce rivalries, well, that is a whole other challenge entirely. And at the very center of this world are the Ørsteds. Anders Sandøy Ørsted is one of the most powerful men in the government, and his sister, Sophie, is this magnetic, brilliant woman who is the absolute heart of their social circle. So when Frederik gets a job as a tutor in their home, he suddenly has a front row seat to how power and influence really work. And this was way more than just a few dinner parties. The Ørsted Circle was basically the command center for the nation's greatest thinkers, artists, and politicians. It was a place where a career could be made in an evening, but it was also a total minefield of jealousy and competition. I mean, if you could make it here, you could make it anywhere. And of course, the personal stakes were incredibly high. Turns out, Frederik isn't the only one totally captivated by Sophie. There's this well-respected philosopher, Sibbern, who's already in love with her. So, bam, just like that, Frederik finds himself in a tense love triangle, competing not just for professional recognition, but for personal affection. So all this social drama, it really just sets the stage for the moment that changes absolutely everything. Frederik is about to face a professional test that is going to force him to choose the career he's fought so hard for or the truth that he just can't bring himself to ignore. This test is called the Dimisprædiken, or the trial sermon. And I want you to picture the most terrifying job interview you could possibly have. As an aspiring priest, Frederik had to give a sermon, not to a friendly crowd, but to the most powerful, established, old-guard clergy in all of Copenhagen. Your entire future rested on what they thought of you. So this is the dilemma he's facing. The smart move, the safe play, is to give a totally conventional sermon that pleases all the old guys. You know, toe the line, get the job, secure your future. But inside, there's a different fire burning. He genuinely feels that the church has gotten lazy and empty. So does he play the game, or does he say what he really believes and risk it all? He chooses to speak his truth. He stands up in front of the most powerful men in the Danish church, and he asks this one single electrifying question. Why has the Lord's word vanished from his house? Let me be clear, this wasn't really a question. It was an accusation. He was basically telling them, right to their faces, that they had failed. The reaction was immediate, and it was ferocious. The university officially condemns him. The priests in the city all sign a letter of protest. A formal complaint goes straight to the state government. And just like that, in the blink of an eye, the career he'd spent years building looked like it was completely over. And here is the craziest part, the big twist. That formal complaint, it lands on the desk of one man. The person who now holds Frederik's entire future in his hands is Anders Sandøy Ørsted, his social gatekeeper, and the brother of the woman at the center of his messy romantic rivalry. I mean, this should have been the end of his story, right?
professionally ruined, and now at the complete mercy of his rival. But what happens next is what turns Frederik from just another ambitious young man into a true historical figure.
Instead of getting crushed, something pretty remarkable happens. The state chancellery, with Ørsted's influence, is actually moved by his passion and his conviction. They don't destroy him. They give him a surprisingly light slap on the wrist. His courage, his willingness to risk everything, it actually earned him the respect of the very man who could have ended his career. Think about that. With just one sermon, Frederik went from being an ambitious newcomer to the most talked about person in all of Copenhagen. He was no longer just another smart guy trying to make it. He was now a force you had to reckon with. This whole experience completely reshaped how he saw himself. He wrote later, "For he who proclaims God's word is alone, like Luther." You see the shift? He no longer saw himself as someone trying to join the establishment. He now saw himself as a reformer, a man destined to stand alone and challenge it. The rebel had been born. Frederik's story really shows that sometimes a single act of defiance, risking your comfort, your career, your reputation, it isn't just about rebellion. Sometimes it's the first and most necessary step to forging a totally new path. And it leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. When is breaking the rules the very first step to actually changing the world?